This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Franny's Pharmacy.
Now more than ever, it's important that our society focuses more on our mental and physical health. At Franny's Pharmacy, the team is committed to their community's need of being happy, healthy, and stress-free. Come learn how Franny's Pharmacy can assist you in a clean, professional environment with their expert bud tenders that are excited to educate you about the benefits of their lab-tested, DEA-certified CBD products. Franny's Pharmacy also offers wholesale and franchise opportunities. Visit their website at frannysPharmacy.com, and that's pharmacy with an F, and use the promo code CannaConnect10 for an exclusive Cannabinoid Connect discount. Again, that's Franny's Pharmacy with an F.com and use the promo code CannaConnect10 for an exclusive Cannabinoid Connect discount. Franny's Pharmacy, putting the farm back into pharmacy. Mr. Darnell Smith, how are you, sir?
What's up, brother? How are you?
I'm doing well, man. I know that we were, just kind of talking before we started recording that going through the housing market now, and you've been through that. So this is the young man and women's game at this point. The up and comers looking for real estate. It's tough out there.
As I said to you, I do not envy you at this point. It's a tough market out there, but I know you guys will eventually find what you're looking for.
Hey, I appreciate the vote of confidence, man. But, we're here to talk to you today, being the founder and CEO of Moon, and everything that's really happening within the cannabis-infused beverage space, and I'm interested to hear about, your operations at Moon and some of the products that you've launched and your footprint in various states. But before we do all that, Darnell, let's first get a sense of your background, which is always good to kind of set the foundation for these conversations. So I know from what I've read, you have some history in the CPG and alcohol industry space, which I would imagine is a perfect transition to the cannabis-infused beverage space. So talk a little about your background and kind of what led you to where you are today.
Yeah, as you probably read, I spent, a large part of the past 20 years in beverage and spirits. For me, just during that time of working in that space, I obviously learned a lot about consumers, about consumer occasions, and learned a little bit about the resiliency of the spirits industry because, people drink when times are good and people drink when times are bad. So, it's a really nuanced space that you have to, really, invest yourself in to get. But I will say it, for me, it was like a journey of my body and how it dealt with alcohol, right? And just me personally, from my chemistry, cannabis was quickly proving to be a more superior vice than alcohol was,
and
right?
more sustainable, I would imagine, right?
And more sustainable, right?
Yeah, you're constantly drinking in that industry.
I mean, to the point where you have to grow a new liver, essentially. But that's a conversation for another day. But what I will say, what it did was my time in the industry allowed me to see how each generation is kind of how their journey has differed with alcohol. And what really struck me as interesting is, really looking into how, Gen Z and millennials and their relationship with alcohol and this mindful drinking and just being a little bit more cognizant of what you're putting in your body, more so than say the baby boomers and right, the folks that made the alcohol industry what it is.
Well, it's so interesting to hear you say that from your perspective, because you've been in it, right? And when I think about like millennials drinking habits, I can't really speak for Gen Z because I'm in the millennial category, but I would always describe, and it's changed, of course, we're getting older, but the binge drinking was a big thing. It wasn't like we were continually drinking every night, but it was like weekend time, let's binge, getting drunk, right? And so how have you seen that shift to where we're more, I guess, cognizant?
Yeah, I mean, look, I've been able to see it over a number of decades. So, not to date myself, but I was in college back in the 90s, and binge drinking had a whole different meaning back then versus what people term binge drinking as now. To me, what people consider binge drinking today is kind of binge light, at best.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Absolutely, right. And that's just something I've been able to witness. So, while in the moment it may seem like, oh, we still, the same rituals are still there, but the overall consumption as it relates to what it was is down. And so I saw that coming in, and I just knew that, like, even though, right, drinking alcohol was down, the occasions around which we share alcoholic beverages were going nowhere. And so what are some new ways that we can evolve that occasion, and those occasions where we get together with friends, or we're, you know getting ready for a fellas night out or a ladies night out, or going to a game and there's coolers around, right, and there's drinks in the cooler, like, where's that going? And so, that's where, I first really got the idea for Moon, was really my own journey with alcohol consumption and how to fit into that occasion without having to drink as much. And so that's where we went with it.
That's what's so weird about alcohol, right? Is that, like, and I mean, everyone, most people feel this, but it's like the hardest thing for me to stop drinking as much as I do is because of how socially accepted it is and how socially readily available it is. I mean, with a dinner, with, you want to have an after dinner cocktail or a happy hour, or, people are just meeting in that environment. So I would imagine also that, in addition to you kind of seeing the opportunity with Moon and presenting that, availability for people to consume and kind of feel part of the group without consuming cannabis, I'm sure you also saw maybe an opportunity where, hey, there could be a setting, or an occasion where people are just drinking cannabis infused beverages instead of alcohol, right? I mean, tell me a little bit about that perspective.
Yeah, I mean, look, absolutely. I think where my whole kind of mission is going, don't get me wrong, like, I'm still invested in several spirits brands. Like, again, spirits are resilient. They will survive this onslaught of cannabis beverages. But for me, it's really about just, the occasion is going to be the occasion. And for me, it's about, like, what's this alternative to alcohol that can also keep you part of the occasion, right? So there's fully non-alcoholic spirits that are out there. Bear Zero Proof is the one that I'm involved in. There are what we call functional drinks, right, that have like adaptogens and other nootropics and other things in them that supposedly give a feeling. CBD is one of the things that ends up in there. And then there's cannabis beverages. And I think all three of those are just another way to enjoy that experience. So for me, it's not just about cannabis beverages. It's how do we evolve that cocktail moment to be more inclusive of different ways to enjoy cocktails, right? Alcohol doesn't have a monopoly, or it does, but it won't for long have a monopoly on cocktail culture. I think that definition is going to expand here in the next few years.
Yeah, I like the way you put that. Evolve the cocktail culture. That's actually going to be the theme of this conversation today, actually. So, well, going off of that theme, and evolving, the cocktail environment, I want to ask you, what are the consumer behaviors like within specifically the cannabis infused beverage space? I mean, what are you seeing? Like, is there a commonality among the demographic? Is there a way they like to consume? Is there a particular product that you're seeing they gravitate to more?
Yeah, it's like I hate to bring political references in here, but it's like the far left and the far right. Like, there's not a whole lot in between. And what I mean by that is, right, you either have the low dose kind of curious consumer that's microdosing, doing 2.5 milligrams or 5 milligrams per serving. And that's one segment of the market. And then you got what they consider the legacy or high dose consumers, right, which can smash 100 milligrams in one serving, right?
Right.
There's no real in between right now in the industry. Either you're microdosed and you're a can, or you're a Wonder, or right Levia, or either you're a high dose legacy consumer and you're a Keef and you're Uncle Arnie's, right? And there's really no in between. Shout out to both Keef and Uncle Arnie's. I know both those guys; they're great. but it's just a different consumer, right, than what we're
Right.
going after. And so what we're trying to do is kind of, again, move that to more of a middle ground. And right, in a 750 of us, right, you can get up to 100 milligrams, but you can session that. And so you can have it over multi servings, just like you would, a night of drinking cocktails. 3 or 4 cocktails probably have you feeling a little bit different than 1 or 2, right? And it's the same concept. And so for me, the big deal was like, how can I be analogous to alcohol, which has, right, a history, and how many drinks you can handle and how many you can't, right?
Right.
And we've learned that over time. With cannabis, I think is still, right, this mystery. And so giving people the optionality to microdose, but also go to this middle ground is has been like kind of one of our driving points of like differentiation of what we're doing versus being a true microdose or a true high dose product, right? Trying to bridge those gaps a bit.
Right. I mean, that does sound like a big differentiator because, when I think about like, say, flower brands or like pre-roll brands, right? I mean, especially in states like California, I mean, you're either high extreme, like, potency THC, or like you said, you're kind of slow rolling in these new consumers and letting them kind of microdose and see what works best for them. And I think that's not like different than kind of any product, I think, within cannabis, right? I think you can agree with that, right? There's either like the new entrants or the seasoned vets. And it's great that your company is trying to bridge that gap. So, but what I also see the opportunity with cannabis beverages is like how that formulation, that intake formulation is probably the most socially acceptable in a public setting than any other form, right? I mean, you have to, with the joint, you're lighting up. It's kind of more of a process.
Yeah, I
What
mean
are your
that's
thoughts on that? Yeah.
yeah, that's exactly the point, right? It's just a less taboo means of consumption. Everyone has been seen sitting around a group with drinks in hand, and so that's not an abnormal situation. But unfortunately, in today's age, just I think flower has a little bit of the remnants of just the anti-smoking movement attached to it, right? Which tobacco created, no fault of cannabis, right? But some of that kind of gets rubbed off on the cannabis. So like, yeah, of course, when you're at a party and people are over, you're not probably whipping out a joint and lighting it up unless it's that kind of party, right?
Right.
um, Most times you either step to the side or there'll be a little bit more incognito with what you're doing. But we wanted to provide a way where no one would have to know if you didn't want them to know, right? And that's really what beverage represents, the whole category, right? It's just a more socially acceptable way of consumption. And I think that's good for the industry as a whole, not just beverage, but flower, and just raising the acceptance of consuming cannabis in a public setting.
Yeah.
I think is huge.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, the ability to just kind of dump it in a red solo cup or whatever and try to fit in. I mean, there's really no way of telling what you're consuming without that added peer pressure. What I want to do real quickly is apologize for those that are just listening out, not watching this episode. But Darnell, I'm going to switch over and go to your website here, and just talk us through it, man. I mean, I'll scroll as you're talking, but it's a beautiful website. You could talk a little bit about your products.
Yeah, man, we had fun with this one, right? Like, Moon in and of itself is really a reference to, right, getting off of this planet a little bit. I think we all realize like, things are crazy in this day and age, pandemics, political craziness, wars, people getting locked up for an ounce of weed. Like, it's crazy. And so we wanted to be more, a release and a way. So you look at our website, we kept it very simple, but we kept it very engaging, right? And really just wanted to tell the story of what we're doing. And this is really a one-to-one replacement for spirits that you already know and love, right? Which is a little different than how other folks are doing it at the moment, right? Like a lot of beverages that are coming out are trying to create like their own vernacular around it. And we wanted to be really clear, like, what tequila is, what bourbon is, and what gin is, and what to do with them. So do exactly the same thing with them as you would with these and go have fun, right? And so that's what we really highlighted here. So right now we have three expressions, right? The Jalisco Agave will take you to tequila, right? The London Dry is obviously a gin, and the Kentucky Oak is a bourbon. As of today, we have three SKUs, right? It's a spirits bottle, 750 ml, just as you would buy Patron or Grey Goose or what have you, right? Same size bottle. We will be bringing online 60 ml bottles, which are 2-ounce bottles, more like the smaller nips, as we call them, where you can make a couple cocktails out of them. But really just giving options for people in terms of format and being able to take them where they want to go. Like, this is a good housewarming gift or a good thing to bring to a party when the 750, right? The 2-ounce is more like, I'm going out tonight and I don't feel like dealing with the madness, so I'm just gonna mix my own drink, right?
Right.
Virgin something and plus it up. So many
And
ways to do it.
well, and the packaging is beautiful too. I mean, the bottle itself is really elegant, and I mean, it looks like, something that you'd buy from like a liquor distributor or liquor store, right? And I love the easy transition for the consumer. Like you said, you know what to do with tequila, you know what to do with bourbon, gin. I mean, those are kind of easy things to apply in this space, right? If you know how much you can intake for those particular beverages. So no, I appreciate you sharing that. And I want to ask you, I mean, like, what what has been like, so how long have you been operating, and where are you currently operating?
Yeah, so we've been really in stealth mode for the past 2.5 years doing product development. We did a soft launch or beta launch earlier this year, like late January, early February, where we did a release solely direct to consumer. So you could go on our site, you could buy it. We sold out of that pretty quickly. And so now we're on our true first commercial run. We have about 30 or so select retailers in both NorCal and SoCal that are going to bring us on. And really, that's the launching pad in California. Anyone who's in the California market will tell you that it's a little tricky, right? Right now, you got consolidation going on, you got economic softness, you got route to market for beverages, a little tough right now. Beverages are heavy, they take up a lot of space, yet they only still make up a small percentage of sales. So to get focus on a beverage is tricky. But doing it in that environment, right, in the sense for us is, right, a lot of people that have tried us would not have walked into a dispensary before, right? Because we started leaning in heavily into the cocktail culture and mixology and really showing up there. And for people who may drink more and we're looking for a way to like diversify, right? That's really where we focus. We didn't go and say, okay, let's go find cannabis consumers who we want to get into cocktails. We're like, no, we're going to start where the ground is most fertile, and that's where people already enjoy cocktails. So started there. And then, for us, we also know that like a lot of people inbound from us are from all over the country, right? They see what we're up to and they're like, man, when is this coming to Massachusetts? Or is this in Illinois yet? Or when can I get this in Florida? And so, of course, we are aggressively exploring our expansion roadmap, and I think we'll have some exciting announcements coming soon in terms of new states coming online, and really just trying to again evolve cocktail culture, across the country and give people a new alternative to enjoy a very familiar moment.
I love that. Yeah, it sounds like there's definitely a thirst for the moon beverage in various states. So that's great. I look forward to hearing more about, your expansion in those various states and all the progress you're making there. I want to switch gears a little bit and kind of talk about, the building aspect of Moon. And in particular, I know there's a lot of talks of social equity and, righting the wrongs for those of people of color who have been disenfranchised by the plan in recent time. So I want to get your perspective. I mean, how has it been building a Black-owned brand in cannabis?
Yeah, I mean, it's been interesting. I kind of get to see it from a bunch of sides. you know, social equity is very much needed, but not very well executed in most places across the country, right? Like I think the intentions and the sentiments are there, but unfortunately, there's still, the factors that drive the rest of the economy and in place. And so, yeah, is it more difficult? Absolutely. But I keep hope in the sense that like, right, there are folks like me that are out there that are committed to, right, there's two sides of it for us, right? There's the policy and the advocating for things like expungement of records and that part of it, but then there's also using our ability to hire and demand that of our supply chain to see the diversity that we want to see in the industry is another tool that we have. And I think more and more brands are thinking that way in terms of like the people we work with need to reflect our values and need to be able to show that they are committed to opportunity for all. And so while it's not always easy, we hold hard and true to that and really try to focus on where can we provide the next opportunity for someone to have access to this industry that may not otherwise have had it. And so that's really how we approach each day. And for us, again, getting involved on the policy side, but also using our ability to make change where we can, just in how we spend our own dollars. And so, has it been tough? Yeah, of course. But, is it insurmountable? Absolutely not. Like I've created businesses in other industries that, had the same issues and ended up okay. So I feel good about where we're headed. So,
Yeah. How has that approach been received by the community?
I mean, look, you have different varying, it's a business to start, right? And so some people are like, yeah, that's great, but it's a business. We got to make money. And yeah, that is true. But I think the brands that are truly dedicated to it are doing the things that will help, from grants to apprenticeships to being part of incubators, right? Things like that I see a lot of folks are starting to really get involved in, I think are, helpful. And so, you know, generally I think the reaction has been positive. I think we have a ways to go into how we enact some of these policies, but it's certainly top of mind quite often. So that's positive.
Sure. No, that is good. That's encouraging because, it's somewhat prioritized. I'll do the quote unquote, but if it's top of mind, at least, people are discussing and it's a relevant issue, which it should be.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
Well, as we wrap up, Darnell, I mean, I guess I want to ask you, like, pull out your crystal ball. I mean, the future of cannabis infused beverages. I'm sure you've been asked that a lot, but I'm more curious to see like where you see Moon fitting into the future of the cannabis infused beverage space.
Yeah, I mean, for the space overall, I'm bullish. I think it's going to take a bit longer than, most of the experts are saying. I think just route to market issues that you deal with as a cannabis beverage. I think anything that is federally illegal is still going to be a maze to navigate. But as right, more and more states come online, as we continue to barrel towards some form of banking reform and some form of expungement, which we all hope comes soon. I feel like it's going to be slow and steady, and it's not going to be like this wonder thing that like destroys a category, but it's going to be something that truly creates a new lane. And I think Moon's place in that, right, is obviously being one of the pioneers in terms of that gray area where the two really cross over, right? It's one thing to have a seltzer or right a can this or can that, but to truly participate in cocktail culture fully, right, but without the alcohol and with cannabis is right something that we hope to always be known for, and something that we there will be more that come, and we're sure they'll be great, but we're excited to be the ones kind of paving that lane inside. I think over the next 5-10 years, I think you'll see the continued growth of the category. But it's going to be slower than most expect, but it's certainly going to happen.
Right. Yeah. No, you guys are well on your way to pioneering in the space. That's for sure. And I would just wish I could get my hands on the Kentucky oak because it's just not readily available here in Texas. But I
No,
definitely will get my chance to try it because it
we
looks
will be
amazing.
sure some find you at some point in the future.
Awesome, Darnell. Well, hey man, anything else that you want to leave the audience with before we go?
No, other than I'm a fan of the entire category. So just pick up a beverage and don't let one of them either ruin or change it. If it's not good, try another one. I guarantee you'll find one if you explore. So I'm pro category. If you see one, give it a try.
Awesome. Where can people find y'all's website and social media if they want to learn more?
Yep, you can find us at Enjoy Moon. That's MXXN on the social platforms, and same thing on the URL, enjoymoon.com.
Awesome. And I'll be sure to drop those links in the description box of YouTube as well. So,
Awesome.
Darnell, thank you so much, man. It was a pleasure talking with you. Best of luck in the future. Keep blazing the trails, and let's have you back on as things evolve.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you all for listening. Bye.